Hello boxing fans, right now I'm talking about Juan Manuel Lopez versus Orlando Salido 2. This is the rematch and this is my prediction. I'm going to start off with the last match, and this is the key things to remember from the previous fight. And the first thing is, Juanma believed in all the hype, right? He was very unintelligent in fighting and he paid for it in the end. He had many vulnerabilities that were highlighted, including that he relied too much on his high power game. He had no or very little stock put into a plan B at all. You see, he couldn't cope with Salido switching from head to body in the fight. He also seemed second best when he was fighting, no matter where really, inside or outside. He was very susceptible to that overhand right. In fact, I think he even said afterwards that he didn't know how to block it. There was no way in that fight that he could block it. And let's be honest, Juan Manuel Lopez is not exactly known for his dazzling defensive abilities, so this was a big thing for him in this fight. And obviously, in the end, Salido won by stoppage, and it rammed home really the differences between Juanma and Yuriokis Gamboa. So anyway, since that fight, they've both moved on. They've had a few matches between them. They've had 3 between them. Obviously, you're going to look at Salido first. He's fought twice since, against 2 little-known opposition boxers, one from the Philippines and one from Japan. The one from Japan ended in an 11th round TKO, and the one from the Philippines, which is the more interesting fight for this one especially, ended in an 8th round TKO. The only problem was, in this fight against the Filipino, Salido was actually knocked down in rounds 3 and in rounds 4, but later won by stoppage in round 8. And funnily enough, the official scorecards for this fight have never been released to the public. Now, if I was Juanma, I would be watching this fight very closely to see if Salido is maybe over the hill, maybe if he's got a lot of deficiencies of his own that Juanma did not take advantage of in the first fight. And I think that's a true case, because he does have his own negatives, and Juanma just did not have the game plan to take advantage of them. By contrast, Juanma has had 1 fight since his defeat, and he won that by 2nd round TKO, knocking his opponent down in round 1 and twice in round 1, once in round 2, and that was enough to do it. So in the rematch, what do both boxers need to do to win? And I'm going to start with Salido. Salido has to do more of the same really. He needs to draw the mistakes from Juanma. He needs to make Juanma gas himself out, bring it onto Salido later on in the rounds when he's going to be on top with his better stamina. He also has, well, especially considering in the last fight, he needs to use that overhand right, because he didn't had no idea what to do with it. He needs to fight him on the inside as well. I like that fighting on the inside. He needs to put a lot of pressure on Juanma, and once he puts pressure on him, he's going to make mistakes, because he did in the last fight. And unless they've done drastic defensive makeovers, then it could be another easy win for Salido. Moving on to Juanma now. And what does he have to do to win this fight? Well, to be perfectly honest, and I'm not going to sugarcoat this, he has to come in with a whole new game plan. He needs to add more movement to his game, especially considering the last fight. He did not have brilliant movement, did he? He cannot afford to rely on one aspect of his game, which is his power game. He's got to, then forget about boxing. He can't do that. In fact, he needs to rely on boxing and forget about his power game. I've always said that any boxer who is a naturally hard hitter will just be deadly in this sport. And you see, Juanma is a naturally hard hitter, but what he needs to do is he needs to forget that he can take them all out and try and wind up these big shots. The KO will come if he just does his boxing. It probably will come in this fight, I think. You see, another thing is he needs to have a consistent jab. It was not consistent in his last fight. He needs to be taught how to defend against that overhand right, and I don't think you can teach someone how to defend against the overhand right, especially if he's a southpaw. And really, realistically, he needs the whole defense tightened up. So I'm going to get straight into the overall prediction. What I think, even though I've just slammed him just then, I think Juanma is going to take a unanimous decision victory if he boxes smart, or probably a late KO if Salido is over the hill. And based on his last fight, it's worrying when a guy gets almost taken out in rounds 3 and 4 by a guy who's nowhere near in his class. And Juan Manuel's going to be looking at that, and he's going to try and draw at least a lot of confidence and a lot of ideas from that fight. So tell me what you think about this fight. Tell me who you think is going to win.